prism is a three-dimensional shape that has the following characteristics. The top and the bottom, which are known as the bases, are always going to be congruent. And just know that the bases don't have to actually be the top and bottom. The shape could be rotated, so it actually could be two sides. And we'll see an example of that later. The remaining sides that are left over are known as the lateral faces, and they're all always going to be rectangles. If the base of the prism is a triangle, we name the solid a triangular prism. If the base of the prism is a square or a rectangle, we give it a name of a rectangular prism. Sometimes a net is used to find the surface area of a shape, and a net is just the shape cut up into two-dimensional shapes. The formula for the surface area of a rectangular prism is S, which stands for the surface area, equals 2 times the width times the length, plus 2 times the height times the length, plus 2 times the height times the width. Most prisms don't have a formula that you can use to calculate the surface area, so using a net to add up all the areas of the faces will probably be your best bet. And we'll look at an example of each of these in a minute. Don't forget units in your answer, and the units will always be squared because we're talking about areas. Finding surface areas can be confusing, so make sure that all of your work is organized so that you and I can easily follow along and we don't get lost in all of the numbers. So let's look at some examples. So here we have a triangular prism because the bases are triangles. First, let's label them. So there's base 1 and base 2. And now let's label the lateral faces, or the sides of our prism. So the L1 is the front, and then L2 and 3 I'm calling the back sides. That's why those arrows are dotted, showing that we're looking at the back of the shape. So now we're going to make some cuts to make our net. So first I'm going to cut vertically along all the lateral faces. So I'm going to make a cut there, there, and there. And now I need to detach the top, or base 2. So I'm going to make 2 more cuts up at the top. So another cut there and there. Now my net can be unfolded, giving me what we have right here. So now we just need to label each of the parts. So the middle triangle is our base 1, because those are all still attached to the lateral faces. And then notice our base 2 is still attached to the lateral face 2. So this is what our net looks like for our triangular prism. Now let's find the surface area of a rectangular prism. So for a rectangular prism, we can use the formula that we talked about earlier. In order to use that, we need to identify the length, the width, and the height. So for this problem, our length is 2 feet, our width is 3 feet, and our height is 4 feet. If you change these numbers, you'll still get the problem correct. So let's say, for example, you called the length 3 and the width 2. It wouldn't make a difference. You would still get the same answer in the end. So now let's substitute in our length, our width, and our heights into our formula. So when we do that, we get the following. And then now we just need to use the order of operations to solve this. So first we're going to multiply each of these triplets together so that we get 12 plus 16 plus 24. And then now we can just add those 3 numbers together to get our answer, 52. But we're not done because we forgot units. So our final answer is going to be 52 feet squared. Don't forget your units. So for number 3, we're finding the surface area of a triangular prism. And unfortunately, the formula that we used for the previous example isn't going to work for this one. So for this problem, and for most surface area problems, you're going to have to find the areas of all of the faces, or the sides of the solid, and add them together. So that's what we're going to do here. Again, I highly recommend that you stay very organized and put all of your areas somewhere where they're labeled on your paper so that you don't forget one of them and get the problem wrong. So that's how we're going to practice this problem. So first, let's find the area of the bases. This is an example of a solid when the base is not the top or bottom, the base is actually the triangular sides that are facing us. So the first base that we're going to find is the one that's highlighted right now. And the formula for the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height, or 0.5 times base times height. Now you have to be careful. The base is 3, but the height is not 5. The base and the height of a triangle have to hit each other and form a right angle, and the side that's 5 centimeters does not do that. So the height is actually 4. So we're going to plug in 3 as our base and 4 as our height, and we get an area of 6. But there's 2 triangles, because remember, a prism has 2 congruent bases. So we have the same work for our second base. So the area for both of our bases together is 12. Now I'm going to put that in a spot on the bottom, and I'm just going to keep track of all of my areas, so that way when I'm done, I can add them all together and know that I haven't forgotten any of them. And I highly recommend that when you do problems like this, you do the same. So I'm going to move that area down here, and now we're going to start to find the areas of our lateral faces. So first, we're going to work on this one right here that I've highlighted in red. And remember, all of these lateral faces are going to be rectangles or squares, so the formula is always length times width. So for this problem, my length and width are both 4, so my area is 16 centimeters squared. So I'm going to put that area again on the bottom of my page just to kind of keep track of it so I don't lose any of them. And now we're going to move on, and we're going to find the bottom lateral face, which I've got highlighted in purple here. And again, it's a rectangle, so we're going to use the same formula, length times width. My length is 3, my width is 4, so that gives me an area of 12. So I'm going to put that area down with my other ones, and now I've got one more side that I need to find. So I've got it highlighted in orange here. So it's a rectangle, and the length is 5, and the width is 4, and that gives us an area of 20 centimeters squared. I'm going to put that down below. And then now to get our total surface area, we're just going to add all 4 of those areas together. So when we do that, we get 60. So our total surface area is 60, but we're not done because we don't have units on our answer. So I'm going to tack on my centimeters squared, and I'm good to go.